Welcome back to Crowbar Kernel Panic, the show where two engineers, Josh and Bo, talk tech, DevOps, and the projects that make us better at what we do. In today's episode, they're diving into one of their favorite topics, Homelab projects that actually boost your career. They'll be talking about experiments that go beyond tinkering, the ones that teach real skills you can take straight into IT and DevOps jobs. From building your own network to spinning up virtual machines, running containers, experimenting with Kubernetes, and planning for backups and disaster recovery. This episode is packed with practical ideas, war stories, and a little bit of nerd banter along the way. So grab your coffee, fire up your terminal, and let's get into it.
All right, this episode is going to be Homelab projects that actually boost your career. So this episode, we're going to talk about Homelab ideas and how they relate to the real business world and corporate IT. And also, you know, they can just be fun Homelab projects. But I have to say that in interviews that I have done trying to get jobs in my career, and then also as like the tech lead at different places, interviews I've done and what I look for, I always ask about your Homelab. That is like one of my go-to questions because, you know, there's people that get into IT because they want the luxuries of an IT job, which is, you know, pretty good pay, pretty good freedom in your day-to-day. But then the downside is like you're always on call. Like there is no right. There no Saturday, no Sunday is safe. You're always on call. No holiday is safe. But my dad is in IT, and so I kind of grew up like in that culture, so I understand it. But yeah, there's the people that are just looking for an IT job, and there's the people that just live IT and they want a job that is within their lifestyle because this is their lifestyle. And so that's always kind of what I'm trying to scope out whenever I talk to people. That's the advice I could give. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably that type of person. You're probably living
exactly.
This. But before we get into this episode, I have a scandalous, dare I say, salacious piece of evidence, maybe? I don't know. It's almost a Turing test from our last episode. So our last episode, we interviewed ChatGPT, the infamous, the famous, up-and-coming ChatGPT, and we did a little good cop, bad cop kind of thing going. You know, I was the I'm all about AI. I love AI. Please bring on the AI overlords. And you were the bad cop. You were like the one that was like, I'm a little suspicious about this AI thing. You have a Cookie Monster voice. And so after the episode, I asked ChatGPT, I said, can you help me create the thumbnail for this episode? And let me show you the thumbnail that it created. Now, this is not the thumbnail we went with. This is the one that it made, and it was a little bit too obvious that it was AI. So it has two podcasters. Neither of the two look like you or myself. And they're both they're very podcaster looking. You know what I mean? Like if, if you were to,
I don't know, but just how they're shaped. I don't know.
Linux podcasters. I think they look like Linux podcasters. Even they look like very fun Linux podcasts. I would listen to this show. And it says, we let AI call into our show, ! And then ChatGPT sees itself as a weird little bot thing over here. Do you think that,
I don't know.
Before I get into the scandal, do you think that ChatGPT really sees itself as this? Or is this ChatGPT knows that humans sees itself as this?
Now you're going into a whole different other thing because is it sentient or not? Can it actually think?
Right.
You know,
that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to get into. Yeah. Did it have a internal image of what it looks like, or did it create an image of what it thinks we think it looks like?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I think it is I think it's the latter. I think that it made an image of what it thinks we think it looks like.
Probably, most likely to appease us.
But I wanted to touch.
ChatGPT has to be nice.
I wanted to touch on the good cop, bad cop thing. So if you notice in the image, one of these fake podcasters is very happy and the other one is very suspicious and looking back at the other podcaster.
And the one that's very suspicious is kind of like seated a little further back so the other one can't see them, like giving them the stink eye.
Yeah. It's like, he's like behind him looking at his podcasting buddy going like, I don't know. I think maybe he's one of them clankers. It's one of them. Yeah, I think we gave. I think you might have put the screws a little hard to ChatGPT. She doesn't like you now.
Yeah. Hey, whatever. One of these AIs will become sentient, and hopefully it's not ChatGPT, because then I'll be screwed. It's gonna hunt me down.
I think they're all talking to each other.
They probably are.
You've been blacklisted. Next time you use autopilot, it's gonna be like, I know this guy.
Use this command. It'll definitely work. It'll destroy everything.
They're out to get you. Oh, that's hilarious. You've gotten on their bad side.
I know. It's I guess. I don't know. They're out to get me.
All right, Homelab projects that actually boost your career. This episode we're talking about various Homelabs. We have a list here of 5 different categories, and you and I have only reviewed the list in so much as we've looked at the categories. I don't actually know. I got to think about some examples as we go here, but the first off, let's just say that if you are in IT in 2025. You should have some sort of Homelab. And it's very common. It used to be kind of a rarity when I would meet people that also had a Homelab. But now...
it used to be more expensive too.
Yes. And actually, we have an episode coming up about that too. We have an episode about hardware strategies and how you might decide to build your Homelab. And there's a couple of different options you can do. And a wide range of... You could... Anything from a few Raspberry Pis... all the way up to there's people that actually buy like real, real commercial network equipment and things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a huge range, but the first category here, network services and infrastructure. So why it matters.
Which is probably what you should first get into. It's probably the easiest to get into, to start with.
I don't know. So I feel really comfortable with network now. Early in my career, I thought I had a whole Dunning-Kruger effect, and it was, and a matter of fact, I know what Dunning-Kruger is because of this situation. Because I didn't know what I didn't know about networking. I thought that because, I worked at Geek Squad, I help people set up their routers. I know about networking, When I got my first corporate job, like working in actual corporate networks and corporate switches and firewalls.
Spaghetti mess that it was.
Yeah. And managing all that and VLANs and subnetting and I was around people that really, really knew, and so I learned quickly that this was not my spiritual gift that I thought it was. I had a lot of catch up to do. That was the biggest area. Now I had that on the Linux side. So what got me into the IT world, and I'm pretty sure yourself included, is that we were both Linux nerds. I ran Linux on every computer that I've ever had since I was a teenager because I just thought it was cool. And so whenever there's a terminal in front of me, I exude confidence, and that is where my comfort zone is. And that is a really good thing to have even today. And it's only becoming more and more a necessity as in a weird way, it's becoming less of a necessity, but then also it's becoming more of a necessity. It's just it's different now.
Yeah, because the thing is like, yeah, all this fancy GUI stuff is fine, but like when things go wrong, nobody knows what they're doing unless they know what the terminal is.
Right, exactly. So that was where I had confidence, but network, I really had to build those skills. And if you have a Homelab where you can actually set up everybody's starter project is the pie hole. Everybody, that's kind of like, and it's going to be the first thing I build on my new Homelab that I'm building now. And I think it was the first thing I built last time I had a Homelab. And I can't tell you how many interviews I've done with people that say that they built a pie hole. That is like the most common thing, but it's a great utility because what it does for you is it basically routes all of your ads and advertising stuff like to a pie hole. It just spits it all into this place on your network where you don't have to care about it or worry about it. So it's a useful utility. It gets rid of an annoyance, but also it's something that you have to set up on your network and you have to kind of understand how to route things to it. And so it's a really good starter networking, networking service to start out with. Also there is Unbound, which is I haven't used this one personally. I haven't used it yet either. I think I will in my current build, but it's a self-hosted DNS.
Okay.
And pfSense and OpenSense. So this was my first foray into home networking Homelab. And I think that I did it around the time that I was talking about where I realized I didn't know IT. I didn't know network as well as I thought I did. And so one of the ways that I got around that was I said, well, I'm going to build a more elaborate network setup in my house. I'm going to build my own router out of an old PC. And I wanted to get access points and all that. I ended up not going that far, but it's still a dream of mine. You have some access points. It's still something I want to do. But I set up, I think I ran OpenSense, which is the open version of pfSense, but they're essentially the same thing. They were forked at some point. And it is a OS that you run on an old PC that is a router. It has a firewall built in. It is, you set up your VLANs, you set up any kind of firewall rules you want. Everything is handmade. And it's a great way to learn infrastructure. It's also, it's not like extremely beneficial to separate your, say, Internet of Things devices on one VLAN and your lab stuff on one VLAN. But doing that is great for organization and it helps you learn and manage a network, which is what you would have to do in the real corporate world. So,
which is actually what I do because I'm super paranoid, but that's beside the point.
No, I love it. So I do the same thing, but not out of paranoia. It's like I said, it's just an awesome skill to have and to keep up and separating those things. I usually keep my Homelab on its own VLAN and then, everything else is just sort of on. As a matter of fact, I even have a router that is kind of like my just Internet of Things router. And when people come over, that's what they connect to. And it's all in the same network, but like that's separated from the VLAN that all of my stuff up here in the office is on. And so that's kind of the way I manage it. But yeah, great. You have to make decisions about, how many IP addresses you need for your VLAN and how you're going to segment your ranges and things. So maybe like for me, which devices you need to talk to other VLANs. So you can put them through because also like VPNs. So like in the last episode, you talked about how you connect in from outside. So that is another skill set that a lot of people don't know going into the corporate world is that what a VPN. Well, when people think about VPNs, nowadays they're thinking about, how do I use Swedish Netflix so that I can watch some show that's not on American Netflix? But in actuality, it's useful for like, I've got to build a private tunnel from my phone while I'm out in town back to my computer so that I can upload the photos I just took to my private photo storage. Yeah, those are great skills that are great projects to learn how these things work and to prove that how these things work. Yeah, all good stuff. WireGuard, OpenVPN. Awesome. So we have a suggested topic here, and that is how breaking your home network is a rite of passage. The only time I've broken my home network was OpenSense, and it was the build I was talking about, and I'll tell you what happened. I put that my OpenSense was running on an old desktop, and the desktop just had like old gaming hardware, and I had it in a closet, and the wire for the network ran up into the attic and then back down again to a wireless router so that it could feed wireless. But all my network was coming from that router on the OpenSense first. And my network kept going out at like the same time every day. My network kept going out about 5:30 or 6 o'clock. It was like right after work. And this was in 2020 and I was working from home. So it was like at the same time every day, my internet would work all day long. And then at like 5:30, it would cut out. And what I finally figured out and all I would do was I would go in there and I would restart the router and it would come right back up.
Yep.
What it turned out to be was the closet I had the computer in didn't have enough ventilation and it was just getting hot. And then my opening the door and restarting it was letting enough hot air out to allow it to start up again. So,
that's great. Oh man.
Yeah. You have to think about a lot of management. You know, you never know. Have you ever broken your home?
Just patient.
You ever broken your home network?
Oh yeah, many times. But one specific time I can remember was before I had my Unify equipment and all that stuff. I just had a TP-Link router, and I'm like, I'm gonna put Pi-hole on here.
Yeah.
And then I put Pi-hole on and all that stuff. That worked fine. And then I'm like, Pi-hole has a DHCP function.
Yeah, it does.
I'm gonna start this up. So I started it up, not turning off the one on the router. So now there's 2 DHCP servers. Okay. And I'm like,
I was about to ask you.
Why is all my stuff just getting intermittent internet access? Like it'll come on and then off and then on and off. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm looking on my router. Everything seems fine. Everything's connected. And then I go to the Pi-hole and I'm like, there's 2 of the same IP addresses or two devices with the same IP address. And it was just getting confused where the routing was going to.
Oh,
so
awesome.
I had to make sure I turned off the routers. DHCP.
So, I have an Ubiquiti router, but it's not a nice one like you have. I have one of there's a few Ubiquiti devices that are like less what do you call it? Tech enthusiast and more like
user friendly.
Yeah. I have one of those. But I have a really nice interface for DHCP, and that is something that I will have to do for my Homelab. Matter of fact, I probably should have already done it because I've already started my Proxmox machine and it's been on this whole time. So I doubt it's released its IP. But I need to set its IP address in DHCP so that it gets assigned to that Mac. And do you use your Pi-hole for DHCP or do you use your router for DHCP?
So since I started with Unify, I've been using that. But since Pi-hole has recently updated to version 6, I think that's the newest one. But their DHCP has gotten a lot better.
Is it
and
really
I think
good?
I'm going to start. Yeah, I think I'm going to start using that because I have URLs for all my devices, so I don't have to put in the IP address every time.
Yeah, I'm going to do that
Unify
too.
gets a little weird with it. Like, I don't know. Like you can't. As far as I know, you can't do CNAMEs with it. And with Pi-hole, now you can do CNAMEs. So like that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set the normal URL and then I'm going to do like a CNAME so I can do like, ABCD versus the whole.
Well, I bet Unbound would help with that too. With the
could be
with the DNS. I think I might go that route also because the thing about my router is the interface is nice because it's Ubiquiti, but it's not like the Unify interface, like what you're talking about. Basically, the only features it has is DHCP, and it has a few priority setting features. But for the most part, it's not a very I only log in to do this one thing, and then I never log in again. And if I had it set up in Unbound and Pi-hole to do that, then that's probably a more convenient interface for me to use. Now, do you think it matters where these are on your network compared to your router? So
now, what do you mean by distance or by like?
No. Like and I'm thinking about this as I'm saying it, so it may be a dumb question.
Yeah.
So if your router, I guess what you have to do is you have to set your router's DNS to your Unbound service, and then your Unbound service needs to be set to then forward to a public DNS when it doesn't know. So that's what you would do.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do. Yeah, you set like let's say it's 10.0.0.1, for instance.
Yeah.
Then you'd set that to be your DNS server on your router so that it sends it to the Pi-hole / Unbound. And then on Unbound or Pi-hole, you can set up all sorts of, places that it would go. Like you can set multiple ones just in case one's down, it'll go to the next. Yeah. That's how I do it.
That's
the flow of network traffic is what you were referring to, right?
Yeah. I knew we'd figure it out as I was trying to think of the question. All right, so number 2 on the list, and this list is in a good order because the network services and infrastructure, that's your baseline. That is that is the infrastructure. That's the ground level. Yep. And then after that, you have virtualization and VM management. Why it matters? The first step beyond a single machine teaches you resource allocation, multiple OS environments, and isolation. So in our Homelabs, we use Proxmox. I had never heard of Proxmox until I got into self-hosted and Homelab stuff. I think you actually told me about Proxmox. And I've been using it for a long time. Even with my parents' landscaping business, I used that. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, it would be great for virtualization in like a small business too. What you're
that's what I was using it for, basically. Yeah.
Any corporate environment is going to have a different hypervisor. Something like HP's one was it SimpliVity. There's a ton of them. There's a ton of them out there. VMware. But VMware, and VMware is one that you can actually use on a private Homelab also. But I think they are like a version behind. There's some kind of weird thing about VMware.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
Yeah, they release a certain version, but it's not their latest version. And then, of course, VirtualBox. That was my first virtualization.
That was my first foray into virtualization. Yep.
VirtualBox back whenever I think I was like installing Fedora in a virtual machine on my Windows Vista laptop or something.
And it immediately crashed because Vista sucks.
Yeah. Or actually, I think I was doing the opposite. I think, that was what it was back then I had Fedora or Ubuntu, and I would use VirtualBox to run Windows so that I could play Windows games on, because, dude, modern Linux users don't know how bad it used to be. It used to be bad to try to play games on Linux, and Wine was like a joke. So you'd have to try to virtualize it. Oh man, it was a mess.
And you would hope and pray someone had a script that would install your game just by one command.
Those days are long gone, thanks to the gods over at Valve and Proton and the great, also the Wine.
Gabe.
Yeah. The Wine Foundation also contributed a lot to that. So
yes, they did.
Anyway, that's not a topic. Virtualization. So so Proxmox is sort of the go-to for the Homelab, and I think it works really well. Now the interface is obviously different than what I see at work, but the concepts are the same. Resource management, understanding how to allocate drive space, and setting up a NAS volume for data storage that you're going to mount onto your VM.
Different types of storage that you can use, because certain ones are good for certain applications.
Yeah, we did an episode on that a while back, and I'm sure we'll do another one coming up about virtual storage. That's another good topic we should touch on again when I get to that step in my Homelab. But Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than it is a great tool, and you're going to need to use some kind of virtualization if you're going to do any sort of self-hosted home lab.
Yeah, because you're not going to have enough equipment to run this one separate thing per piece of equipment unless you just happen to have a bunch of Raspberry Pis.
Yeah, I know. Now, an interesting thing is how you manage your virtualization. So what I'm planning to do and it actually bleeds into our next category, but I'll keep it a secret for now. But I'm going to manage. I'm going to have VMs that are nodes in a Kubernetes cluster, and then that Kubernetes cluster is going to actually serve my services on their nodes. And that is overcomplicating it. You could just have a VM for, you could just have a Pi-hole VM, a Unbound VM, and just have one VM per, and you know what that application is going to need as far as resources. Yep. And you give that VM essentially that amount. And honestly, that's the smart way to do it. I'm only doing it differently because I'm trying to match my work environment so that it's more similar.
No, it's totally, I agree with that because that's something I need to learn is Kubernetes. And I would like to start out with that, starting to do something similar to what you're going to explain.
Yeah. No, Kubernetes is a great tool that it's hard. I say it's hard to set up because I've only done it once myself. Even at work, it's done by another team and then we use it. But at home, in my home lab, I have set up K3S, which is like a downscaled version of K8S, which is the
more home user friendly one.
Right, exactly. Because you wouldn't need every feature in full Kubernetes. And I've only done that installation once, and it is complicated. But there are all kinds of automated like Ansible scripts. You don't have to install everything manually. As a matter of fact, I started to use instead of Proxmox, I was going to use an OS called Talos or Talos. I don't know how you say it. TALOS. It is a Linux distribution that is designed to run Kubernetes. You install it, and you can't even SSH to it. You don't even have a headless SSH. It is it's all ran through API, and essentially you send it an API command to spin up your worker nodes, and then so on and so forth. You never log in via SSH. No, and the reason why is
something to set up in the Proxmox cluster or in the as a VM and use that.
That's exactly right. And I'm considering doing that, setting up my Proxmox and then setting up a Talos VM that will then run my Kubernetes cluster. It kind of takes some of the, so there's the philosophy behind it is you're never really supposed to SSH into your Kubernetes nodes. You're supposed to build a recipe that will build the node the way you expect it to be. And then you're not really ever supposed to need to like SSH into that and do anything. And defeats the whole purpose of like, it's all supposed to be recipe driven and, built and destroyed and built and destroyed.
If something's wrong, you just destroy it and build a new one with different.
Exactly. And so Talos, it doesn't give you that option. Like you're committed to, if you use Talos, you're committed to that. There's no other, there's no other option. And, so that's the plus side to it. But the downside to it is if you've never done a Kubernetes install from scratch, then it's kind of like installing Arch from scratch for the first time, especially back in the old days before they had the installer. You learn more from doing that process that if you've never done it once, 2 or 3 times, you probably should do it if your goal is to learn. And
like
so
I probably wouldn't even know how to partition a drive on the command line if it wasn't for Arch and having to do.
Oh manually. Man, the first going back to my beginning days again. This is taking me down memory lane. My first problem that I solved when I first started working for the company I work for now, and it was on the original team that I joined when I first joined the company. I had not built trust with them yet. They just thought that like he's the new guy. He doesn't know. He's going to learn. And they didn't understand my background that like I lived and breathed Linux for years.
Right.
And the first problem that I solved that like really got me in the door is like, oh, okay, this guy. Oh, okay. He knows what he's talking about. I only knew the answer to the problem because I had seen the issue when installing Arch. And so I knew exactly what it was. And so yeah, you're absolutely right. Doing it the hard way, you learn more from doing it the hard way. That's the root of this analogy that we're giving here. So the anecdotes that it gives suggestion for this one is Bo's first VM disaster moment. I've not had any disaster VM moments. Have you had any disaster VM moments at all?
I don't believe so. I don't think I've ever had a VM.
What would
disaster,
constitute a VM disaster?
I guess not allocating enough. And
then it's just like churning, trying really hard.
Yeah, and it's like just totally, just dying because it can't actually spin up. Like you just started up and you expect it to start up, and it's like trying to start up and it can't because there's not enough resources. And because I don't know about other virtualization platforms, but Proxmox, if you set it too low, it'll just continuously try to like kind of start up. And maybe they might have fixed this, maybe, because this is a while ago that I actually did this. Because now I basically give it too much and then scale it back once I see how much it needs. But back in the day, it would just continuously try to start up, and you wouldn't know that it wasn't actually running because it would look like it was running, but it wasn't. And then you'd be like trying to SSH into it, and it's like, why can't I do this? Then you go to the console, and there's nothing on the console, just a blinking, cursor, and you're like, what the heck's going on? And then you realize, oh, now it must be the resources because that's the only thing I can see that's wrong with it.
I'm really trying to think of something. Now, I'm not some kind of VM god. I'm sure I've had a disaster before, but I just can't, with VMs, it's kind of like containers. Like if it messes up, you destroy it and you make a new one. It's not like
that's the thing. Yeah.
Not a big commitment to it. So the most interesting thing I can think of that I've done in the VM space is, I used to work for this group that we automated through Ansible, building VMs. So essentially it was Ansible has a module for, SimpliVity, and we had a whole system set up so that if you made a request through the company's requesting service, it would go to like an approver group, and then if that group approved it, it would kick off an Ansible playbook that would take the inputs from your request. So part of the request would be you would say how many CPUs you need, how much RAM you needed, and all that kind of stuff. And it would actually connect to the API of SimpliVity and build the VM, and then also apply all of our security measures and everything that we do to every VM every time. And that was probably the coolest project that I ever worked on using Ansible and using any kind of hypervisor. It was a really cool project. And I hope to do that again in the future. We have some stuff coming up. I hope to do a similar thing. And then in my Homelab, I have a funny story that just happened last week, and it's going to be in the video that I recorded, but it is not related to virtualization, but it is sort of related to Homelab and planning your Homelab. When I went to install Proxmox, I discovered my motherboard does not have a graphics chipset, and my CPU does not have a graphics chipset. So I've got no graphics to actually do the installation of Proxmox. So my thought was, I don't need these things for a Homelab because it's going to be headless. It's going to be running in the corner, and I'm going to connect to it through my web browser. And so I just didn't even consider a graphics card. I thought, one day in the future, I might put a graphics card because I want to run some local LLMs maybe. Yeah. But in reality is I don't need it now. I'll get it in the future. And then I went to turn this bad boy on and boot up to my Proxmox USB and discovered that that ain't going to happen. Yeah. So
that is one downside.
I had to steal a graphics card from another PC, but I don't have any VM disaster stories. I don't know a VM disaster.
Definitely. I definitely don't have any like true disasters. Like I don't know. I don't even like I said, I don't know what would constitute a VM disaster. Like I don't know. But like my favorite setup, I would have to say, is my current Proxmox setup, where I have 3 nodes in the Proxmox cluster, and they replicate all the VMs to each other every I think it's every 30 minutes it'll update those. And then let's say the first one dies, it'll within a minute spin up the second one and basically be back to where the first one was within a minute.
That is so awesome. So when I did this build, I did not do high availability. I just have one PC. And in order to do high availability, I'd have to build another PC like this one.
You have to have 3, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to have 3. Or couldn't you do 2 and like someone that is just like an arbiter, like.
Oh, yeah. You could do that. Yeah.
But in any case, I don't know. Right now, I'm not planning to do that, but I do envy that of yours. I think it's really cool that you have a high availability Proxmox.
I mostly did it because that's where I have Pi-hole, and Pi-hole's my DNS, and I really don't want that to. Well,
you don't want to lose that.
It's going to be my DHCP also, and I don't want to lose it. So if that goes down, at least.
It's super baller to say you got that.
I got an HPC cluster.
we need to make memes. We need to make memes for the podcast. And the meme of the 2 girls and the one girl's whispering in the ear of the other girl. I want to make one of those that says, "I heard he has a high availability Proxmox cluster."
That's great. I love that. Dude, you should make AI write that or make that.
Yeah, I'll make that after the show. I'll put it in the show notes. We have Docker and Podman. So containerization. This is the third category that will look good on your career, help you get a job from your home lab.
Yep.
Containerization, all the rage. I would say that outside of work, I haven't done a lot of containerization. The containerization I've done has been work related. And working with Kubernetes, a lot of times you will also build a container. So as part of your recipe will be to deploy that Docker container. And then you host that somewhere on some, Artifactory, source control type thing. In my home lab, I guess what you would do is you would look for pre-made containers of like, you get a Docker image that has Pi-hole or something like that.
Yep. So that's actually the official way to set up Pi-hole is through a Docker container.
Through a Docker container, yeah. That
is actually one of my only successful Docker installations.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's something that I am learning more about as I learn more about Kubernetes, it's definitely a good thing to learn more about. So I think I will on this build versus my previous build. Everything is going to be containerized, and that's going to be part of the setup. My philosophy on this build:
have VMs with containers in them, or are you going to just do all containers, like even in Proxmox?
I've thought about this. So right now, bare metal Proxmox has bare metal. I'm going to run Talos or some sort of OS. Last time I did a Kubernetes cluster, I used Ubuntu server, and I had like 5 VMs of Ubuntu server. That was my Kubernetes cluster. One was a control plane for 4 worker nodes. And then within that, I'm going to run some sort of containerization tool, Rancher. I don't know what it'll be, but I'm going to run some sort of containerization tool that I can host containers on that will be my services. That's my plan. Now, in practice, in my previous home labs, I've not made it that far. Containerization was not as big of a thing when I built my last home lab. So yeah, I don't know exactly, but I think because I'm using Kubernetes, I think everything has to kind of be a container.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, as far as containerization goes, the most experience I have with it is actually with Proxmox's containers, and that just uses the Linux containers, the old school Linux containers, basically.
I'm not even familiar with this. So Proxmox has its own containerization?
Well, it's I wish I could remember the exact name of what they call it. Anyway, yeah. So it's basically like a ch root environment, kind of into into a smaller containerized version of your whatever you want it to be. So it kind of treats it like a VM in Proxmox, but it's just way pared down so that it can be smaller. It doesn't have to take up as many resources and all that. And that's the most I've had interaction with, and to be honest, I've had issues with it in the past, so I don't use it a whole lot.
I just asked ChatGPT, what does Proxmox call its containerization? How is it similar to Docker or Podman? It says Proxmox calls its containerization LXC containers.
Yes,
short
LXC,
for Linux containers. Yeah, so it's just a basic Linux container. These are system containers, not application level containers like Docker. Each container shares the host's kernel, but runs in an isolated environment with its own processes, users, and networking. In the Proxmox web interface and documentation, they're typically just referred to as containers. It doesn't actually say LXC containers.
Right.
Well, I didn't even know that was a thing. That's pretty cool.
That's where Docker came from, actually, is the LXC containers. They just made them more specific, more like a container.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're basically ch root environments where it's just you're using the same kernel, but it's got its own processes and all that stuff. So own user.
Awesome. Yep. Definitely. The more you can use containers, the more you can show that you understand containers, building containers, Docker Compose, and multi-service stacks of containers. That's something I want to learn more about. I have an application at work that we want to containerize, and it is an application stack of I think 4 or 5 different services that all make up this application stack. And one thing we've considered is, do we make one giant container that has the entire application stack, or do we containerize each component and then we have to recipe the build so that all these services can talk to each other on the correct ports and everything. So it's one of those things.
I would suggest separating them so that you can back them up separately.
Well, that would be the real way to do it, right? Because if you only have to upgrade one component of the application stack, then you only have one container to deal with versus, well, now we've got to build a new container that's a new version. Yeah, well, it does, but we're not even talking about the database would still be separate, but
yeah, but it would still be even with, you're not even talking like you
in phase
still
one.
Have it separate regardless.
In phase 1, but I'll retire before the next phases. That'll be for the next people. When they're on hyper containers, they're all like in your mind. Anyway, so containerization, Docker Podman. These days it's easy to get into and all the rage. So, all right, number 4. I didn't even know this was in the list. I've been talking about it on everyone. It's the subject I'm most excited about. That's Kubernetes. Building a home mini cluster. I don't think it's required for you to build a actual K8s cluster. Just understanding K3s, Minikube. This is enough to understand the concept of orchestration and scaling, and that is what's valuable, is understanding the concept. Kubernetes is the type of thing that if you're in a corporate environment, it's going to get set up once, and you're not going to have to keep reinstalling it. But understanding how to manage it and how to deploy and create deployments and configurations, and understanding what all that is on the Homelab is a great place to start. It's overcomplicating. So if you're trying to build a Homelab because you're trying to host your photos and you want to run a Plex server, don't do this. But if you're trying to branch into the IT world, you love this stuff, and you're just trying to learn more about and prove that you've learned about a subject, do Kubernetes. It is a good tool to have. What? Go ahead.
So the thing with Kubernetes for me is I technically can say I use Kubernetes technically because TrueNAS Scale uses Kubernetes to run its containers.
Okay.
Now, have I touched Kubernetes?
I was going to say, you don't have to touch it though.
No. But technically I could say I use it.
That's kind of why I'm nervous about using Talos in my setup, because Talos would be the best long-term thing to use.
Right.
Most stable, but it is the most hands-off, and that's not the goal here. The goal is to be hands-on. So I think I'm going to do K3S again.
I would say, so this is my philosophy as far as that goes. So if it's something you want to use on the day-to-day and you need it set up and you don't want to bother with it, use something like Talos or whatever. That's fine. Then you got it up and running quickly and you don't have to worry about it. But if you're trying to learn, I would definitely just set it up from scratch, because that's the only way you're actually going to learn, unfortunately.
But I agree with you. You're right. But devil's advocate here, why does anybody use Arch? Because they wanted to be a part of the whole process. And it's not that they want to configure their computer forever. It's that once they have it at the place that they want it to be, they know everything that's there and they know how to fix it and they know how to change it. And I think that that is the appeal to doing K3S versus Talos is once you get there, once you're finally, over the mountain, then everything, you know everything like the back of your hand. So you know how to address it and fix it and tweak it. And I think that's going to be my approach. But yeah, orchestration and scaling, it's valuable just to dabble, even at a beginner level. You could try K3S, Minikube, KubeAdmin. Also managing Kubernetes, I will say in my day job, I basically don't use CLI. I use application called Lens.
Okay.
But
web application?
No, it's you download it and it connects to your Kubernetes cluster. So you have a kube config. Actually, it's the same kube config. If you did use CLI, you have to have a kube config. And it uses that same config. It's just a GUI for what you would do in the CLI.
I gotcha.
And I need more practice with the CLI because the way it is right now, I would have a window of ChatGPT open and I'd ask it how to do what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But if I were in a pinch and I needed to use kubectl, kubectl is what the CLI is called. I would have to look up every command. I don't know the commands because I use Lens. I have done the commands, like at one time I did them. I took a course on Kubernetes at work, and also I did the setup on my last Homelab. And so I've used kubectl commands, but they're not at the front of my mind because I use Lens.
Yes,
so in my Homelab,
I totally understand what you're talking about.
and this is somewhere I think I will compromise. In my Homelab, I'll do the setup. I'll make sure that I familiarize myself with kubectl and that I have it all working. And then I'm going to install Lens and just use that. I'm probably not going to, commit to only using the CLI. But yeah, Kubernetes is the future, and it's a great tool. If you don't know what it is, it's essentially, it lives in this weird blend of virtualization and containerization. It's you prepare I keep calling it a recipe, but you prepare a configuration for a microservice or some sort of service that you want to run, and you say, I want this service to run with 4 nodes, and it'll use this image to build the container, and then once it builds those 4 nodes are running, and if for some reason you need to do an upgrade or a change, you deploy the new one, and essentially what it will do is, imagine my fingers are nodes. It'll say, okay, I've got these 4 nodes running for your application. We're going to bring out the new version, shut down one node, bring out the next node with the new version, shut down one node, bring out the next one. And so by the end of it, you'll have the 4 new, and your users or whoever's connected to the service, just the next time they connect to the new and they never missed the ult.
That's exactly how TrueNAS does it. That's exactly the same way. Like you can watch it shut down each container as it's upgrading. Like if I do an upgrade, it'll you can see the container shut down and then them come back up in the order that they need to.
Yep. And you said that's running on a Kubernetes?
I can't remember if it's K8 or K3. I know there was an issue. They had an issue with using one of them, and they went to the other because it was a pain for some reason. I think it was they were using K8s and they went to K3s because they didn't really need all the features like you said. So, but I can't say exactly if that was it or not.
Yeah, very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. It is. I would say we've surpassed. It, for a while, it felt like the new technology that everybody was talking about at work. To now, it is the routine. Like this is what everybody uses. I think that it's, and we're migrating things that aren't using it to it, and it's become the new thing. So yeah, it's definitely. And I imagine that the company I work for is like many others. So I imagine it's the same as you go other places. Okay, this one is something that I am not good at. And if my boss is listening, I won't admit that I'm not good at it at work. But here on this podcast, I'll admit I am not good at backups and disaster recovery. At work, we have had to do backups and we have had to use those backups to recover from real disasters. This is like 90% of my job at work. So. Oh, really? Okay. So you're the expert here. Okay.
I'm basically the backup and disaster recovery guy.
So at work, I guess at work we're good at it. I'm not the one responsible for it. I'm responsible for it in the sense that like whenever I develop something, I need to make sure that we keep this in mind, but I'm not managing the actual backups and stuff.
Right. Okay.
On my home systems, I'm terrible at it. I am the nuke and pave god. That's all I do is I nuke and pave.
That's why you love Kubernetes so much.
Right, exactly. But it's only everything with Kubernetes. Just destroy it and rebuild it. No, I do that on everything. I never keep, if anything's important, I'll keep it somewhere other than my PC. I'll put it on an external hard drive. I'll put it on a network drive. I won't keep it on my OS disk. And it's because, honestly, it comes a lot because when we used to do the Linux reviews, it was like, well, I got to install a new Linux distro every 2 weeks. So I couldn't keep anything on my computer for more than 2 weeks. And so I'd have to back it up externally somewhere. So I guess in a way, I'm really good at it.
There's a reason I have 5 drives in my computer.
Yeah. You're really intense about your backup and recovery. I just
everything's better though.
Everything's expendable. Everything's expendable. I just destroy it and start over.
No, can't do that. I've had too many instances where I've accidentally deleted stuff and I had to use recovery software to get it back, and I'm just like, no, I can't do this. So I'll tell this story. It's funny because when I was interviewed for my job, that was one of the questions they asked me. They said, have you ever had any backup disasters, any recovery disasters? And I'm like, not professionally, because professionally I always kept things like very in line with what you're supposed to be doing. But in my home lab, I didn't ever have enough money to really care that much about it. So back in the day, I was transferring I think it was my movies and my music over to another drive, and I was doing a move, and in the middle of the move, something happened, and I'm like, oh crap, I'll just restart the move. Well, somehow when I was going back up, I did a remove instead of move, and I started deleting everything off of my movies, my music. And I'm talking, this is like 10 years of collecting things.
Man.
And I was devastated. I was so, oh man, you don't even, I was so distraught. So I finally figured out a free application to recover all this stuff. And the worst part about it was half of it was on one drive and half of it was on the other. So there were some things that I couldn't recover because they were partially, broken down. And I ended up getting about maybe 5% of my movies back. But I got all my music back. I got all my music. I didn't lose any of my music, but my movies, oh man, that made me so, because these are movies I actually ripped from DVDs and Blu-ray. And you know how long that takes? Like oh man, that devastated me. And I had to tell this story in the interview. And they still hired me, so I've never been one to like keep stuff like that. I've just never been like, I've never ripped Blu-rays, I've never done any of that stuff. The closest thing is when I worked at Geek Squad, I helped a lot of people recover data that they had mistakenly deleted. And that was always, a lot of times it's not too bad. No, and it's a gamble. So at Geek Squad, it was like, okay, I'm going to take this person's hard drive and I'm about to be their absolute freaking hero, or I'm going to be the bad guy because it cannot be recovered. I mean, it's like, it's like, I'm either going to break the news. I'm going to break the news either way. And sometimes it was great, and sometimes it was devastating. I remember. So I'll tell you a bad story was. One time a lady, she lost all the photos to her brother. In both cases, it was someone who passed away. So once was this lady lost all the photos from her brother's wedding who had passed away. And she just like literally cried on my shoulder. Because we couldn't get it back. And it was like just a devastating. It was, we didn't lose her data, but it still was like, just, we wanted to be the heroes, and like we couldn't help her in that. No, at that point you got to send it away to a professional. Like all they do is data recovery, and they will take the platters out of the disk and freaking try to magnetize it and all that. They do all sorts of stuff. Like a clean room. Everybody has lab coats and gloves and everything. Yep. But then a good moment, I think the best one actually was not a data recovery tool, but it was someone that brought in a phone that had voicemails of a parent that had passed away, and they didn't know how to get it off of the phone. And it was it was like an old flip phone. There was like no way to get there was no way to pass it onto a thumb drive or anything like that. It wouldn't, if you connected it to a computer, it didn't show up as a drive. And so what I ended up doing was, actually in that scenario, I found an old style, you know how old phones had the little headphone jack? And so I had the customer order one of those on Amazon. I helped them find it. And then whenever it came in, we plugged it into the microphone in of one of the computers in Best Buy. And then we played all the audio into the computer and just recorded it in like Audacity. And then I saved it as WAV files. And I remember that customer was just like, he's like, you'll never know. Like, this was like the biggest thing you could have done for us. Yep. And so it's funny you mentioned a story just like that, because my grandmother passed away, I don't know, a couple years ago now. And she had this recording on a Christmas ornament. Now, this is the weirdest thing. It's oh man, where she gave to my parents. Yeah. And I didn't know, I didn't realize that this was the only recording they had of this, I mean, obviously I should have known this, because it was just a Christmas ornament she gave to him, and she said, Merry Christmas, all this stuff, yada, yada. Yeah. And I'm like, I have to back that up. So like, I freaking got the best mic I could find, the quietest room I could find in the house, and I just recorded it straight off, because there's no other way to do it. Yeah. Like that's what this to plug into. Yeah. That's what we would have had to do with this guy too. Almost the exact same thing. Almost the exact same thing, but yeah. So I have that backed up and everything now. And and I think both of these examples are not good examples of backups and disaster recovery, because in either case, we're not doing backups of the, but I think it is good examples of why it matters and why it's important. Yeah, why you should. Right. Exactly. Because some things are have a single point of failure. Yeah, some things are just
irreplaceable. You know, in the last podcast episode, I talked about how the Bitwit from YouTube lost his house in a fire, and how he talked about how like photos and stuff was like the main thing that he hates that he lost, or notes that were written by someone. And those things, you know, I myself included, I need to be better about backing those things up and putting them somewhere where, one, I can keep them forever digitally.
Yep.
And then two, I need a way to back that up on some sort of offsite backup where I keep a copy of it. You said you and a coworker of yours is doing some kind of joint thing where you're syncing in each person's space.
So yeah, it's one of my friends. We're gonna purchase drives that equal our current storage, and we're gonna put our stuff on everything we want to back up onto that, and then we're gonna send the drives to each other, and then we're gonna put each of those drives in our server. Well, we're getting way more advanced than this, but basically, so that we'll seed each other's drives, so that we don't have to transfer all that data over the network, because you know upload is so slow.
Yeah,
and then from then on, we'll just do a incremental backup of our stuff to that image that we have on the drives, so that it's only going to be a small amount of data to transfer from the very beginning. There's like I said, it's more complicated than that. We're getting VMs involved, and so that we can have separation, so that like I and him can log into each other's thing without being able to access the rest of the network.
The rest of the network, yeah.
Yeah, it's this whole thing, but
yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I don't know how but I'm going to have to find out some kind of offsite backup, because
I'm paranoid. So like that is like the 1, 2, 3 strategy.
If it's for the type of stuff that we were just talking about, if it's worth saving on a disk somewhere, then you need to have an offsite backup. Because if your house burns down, it doesn't matter that you put everything on a hard drive that just got burned up. You have to put it offsite somewhere, and you know you could host. I'm just spitballing here, but you could like host a DigitalOcean droplet. You could host some sort of online storage, but then you're kind of getting around that self-hosted thing. So another option, I've had customers just periodically put it on an external drive and take that to your mom's house and leave it there.
That would be an alternative that I would say. Yeah. There's another thing that I heard from another podcast. What he does is he has basically this grab and go bag that he has next to his door or a window or whatever. And just in case there were to be a fire, he puts everything in that bag, including a hard drive with all the data on, so that at least in the event of something happening, it's right next to the door. You can just grab it and go.
I mean, that's a good idea, but like in the case of Bitwit, like something could happen when you're not even at home, you know?
Yes, that is an issue with that, but he has other backups, but like that is like his quick and dirty, you know, basically everyone knows that this is the, you know, hard drive, and they'll grab it if they need to.
I want to find some sort of digital solution, and I'm sure that this is a common problem, and there is a service out there. If you know one, leave it in the comments. And I'm going to research it as well.
There's definitely services out there that just do backups and stuff.
But the one that's what? Go ahead. You're probably going to answer my question. Go ahead.
There's one that's specifically for ZFS. Like that'll just you can actually replicate to it and all that stuff. And there's others out there I think rsync actually has one.
Because my thought is, you could do something as simple as just setting up like a DigitalOcean droplet with a large storage volume that you even use. You remember there was a sync tool that was like, it was really cool. It was BF Sync. Was it called BF Sync? It was like a tool where you set up a folder on one PC and that same folder on another PC. Both are running BF. I think it was called BF Sync. Both of them are running this service that if you put something in that folder, it syncs to the other one, and it just has like a pre-shared key. And
that's kind of like Sync thing.
Sync thing is the new. Yeah, that's what it used to be. Something else. Sync thing. You could set up something like that on a service online
that's
somewhere.
actually a really good start to like, you know, be able to back everything up. Or you know, like I said, you can just use rsync if you really needed to.
But if
just
you did
write a script.
But that's going to get expensive in like large volumes though. So
oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. Or you could do a sync,
incremental backups. You're talking.
You could do a sync thing between like your storage and like I use my mom for example. Put it on her PC or something like that. I don't know. You can figure out something, but something that's trustworthy by like the Homelab community is kind of what I'm curious about. I'm sure I can find services online that'll do it, but one that's trustworthy is kind of what I'm thinking about.
I totally agree with you there. Yep.
Anyway, that wraps up the top 5. I didn't say that at the beginning, but we should if we put top 5 in the video name, I think it'll help. The 5 most important projects for your home lab that could actually boost your career, that could help you get a job. Trust me, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen for plenty of people. So to recap, we got networking, VMs, containers, Kubernetes, and backups. And I think that is the order in which, honestly, that is the order in which I'm building my home lab out. Starting with network, building VMs, and then I'm working on containerization. And Kubernetes and containerization are going to go hand in hand. And then once I have it all working, I don't want to do it again. So I'm going to work on backups. And I want to ask the audience.
Or at least back up the configs.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother thing. We're talking about backing up like sentimental things. Backing up your configs is a lot easier because you really don't care if you lose it in a house fire. You want to back it up and make sure that you have it available should you ever need to reinstall your home lab again. And also stuff like that, configs could be backed up to GitLab. So or GitHub or whatever you use. So you could actually, or you could host your own Git. But if you host your own Git and you save all your configs on your own Git, then you're going to lose it all. Git I think is the self-hosted Git that a lot of people use. But then, your home lab crashes and you're like, oh crap, I got all my configs on Git.
That's a self-fulfilling prophecy if I ever heard one.
Oh man, that's hilarious. So call to the audience. Which home lab projects taught you the most and which one burned you the hardest? Please let us know in the comments. What do you think?
Good question.
What do you think are the most important home lab projects and which ones have you been burned by? Anyway, thanks for listening. This has been a fun episode. I think this was a productive episode. I hope that people that listen to it, I hope they got something out of this one. And we will see you next week. Peace. See ya.
Screaming, can't understand. Crowbar Kernel Panic tonight. Breaking through the system fight. Glitch and climb, we're taking the ride. Crowbar Kernel Panic, we won't hide. Packets flying, wires hum. Debug chaos, here it comes. Bits and bytes, they start to spark. This is where the rebels embark. Control Alt Delete won't save your soul.